Greetings. Welcome to Demystifying Occult Magic, Part 5. The wisdom within myself, the divine within myself, recognizes the wisdom within you, the divine within you. Let us reform. So now we've come to a point of number 5 where things aren't so obvious, or it's like we're beyond the past and now we're into the present, the unknown. And in order to understand the present completely, truly, is to understand that the past, the future, are all one with the present. So in other words, the reasons you are in this exact moment and where your trajectory will be are all focused around this present moment that keeps flowering. And the more we come into that moment, the more it flowers. And the more I've come in to this moment of flowering, I've learned that life is not a war in the way that my carnal body, my memories, my mortal being remembers the past. Like, we have this war mentality from the past, right? But we also have this peaceful, fulfilled future in my stream, in my particular stream that I'm riding now. But if I decide to ride a different stream, then I'll go in a different direction. So there's no ultimate choice point. Like, there's always a choice point, and there's no right or wrong answer. There's only which way do you put your sails, and then where will your ship go. And just because something is more pleasurable does not mean it's ultimately what is right for you in that moment. As a society, we want to have everybody, taking care of the planet, taking care of each other, and also having self-expression. Like, we have these ideals naturally. So that's kind of a good roadmap to where to bring your vessel. And which way you go, it really depends on your ability to control your, what they call, emotions or carnal urges, or fear-based thoughts, because we're trying to get deeper into actuality, reality, taking the reins of this life and bringing the beast of what we don't understand or can't quite control, literally can't control, we can rein it in and guide it, because we realize that we're one with it and we both have the same goal, rather than demonizing and hating. And this applies especially to those who we consider the most hated people, or demons, or the devil. It's a great example. You've heard me refer to the devil as like the thug of God, meaning that there's dirty work that needs to be done. It's not going to be done by a high resonance angel like Lucifer, for example, who I differentiate from the devil. But the devil could be Lucifer. The devil could be any being, as long as that being is crossing your particular path. So if you're a disease pathogen, and that's kind of how you understand yourself, that's how people around you, maybe that created you with their minds, understand you as this problem, and some sort of healing force comes in and makes you go away, right? To you, that healing force is evil, right? So it's all about perspective. What's good, what's evil? Like, I'm not trying to deal with those pejoratives. Like, we all have a society and we all have an individuality, and they don't always 100% want the same things. A lot of society wants people to have like predictable behaviors, for example, and categorize people, of course. So this is where we get into this okay, so the whole point of this, and maybe the reason you're listening, of this particular, if you just came in, you didn't know me, of this particular speaking, is how do we deal with this occult magic we keep hearing about? That's terrible and bad, and it's affecting our lives. So the easy answer, right, is that we create systems of sovereignty where we don't rely on outside inputs. Like, we use our discernment. We have this big discernment muscle here that needs to be opened and turned on. Like, open that eye that is closed, right? And we all need to do it as individuals, and then we can discern again like we used to. This is like not impossible. This is what used to be like. So we discern who to follow and when to follow another, and more or less we don't follow other physical beings. We follow that voice within, and then we rely on each other as one family, one heart, and that's where the healing comes in. So you just got to do it. Right now it seems like, well, what's the point? It's like, because I'm living in this world where it's dog versus dog, so I really have to fight or I'm gonna die, so what's the point of this? But we're getting to such a point in history where it's actually turning around, where it's like, no, actually, if you start fighting each other now, we're all gonna die, but we're not all gonna die because we're all individuals. We're all sovereign. We can all go whichever direction we want. If you're standing within time and space right now, you're a unique new being every moment. That's the best way to look at it. So you're not beholden to any other being on this earth. The only reason they're around you in the same space and you seem to be able to harm or help each other is because you've chosen that. Like, these people are giving you the exact thing you need in infinity, because infinity means everything. So you chose this out of everything, not just like out of 1,000, not out of 1,000,000, but out of infinity, which is so much stuff that it breaks all the synapses in your brain, and you just become one with the universe if you really understood infinity. And therefore, none of us do, but we can have some sort of greater and greater spiraling toward that affinity of infinity, and in that way, through that spiral that is infinite, because really I say we can't, but we will transcend this body at one point, and then we can. So I'm trying to differentiate matter and spirit because that's my nature as a human being, but that's not just because I'm channeling the divine. That's not every voice of the divine. That's the divine coming through me for you. So this message is designed for you, but there's all different ways to slice this fruit that is the universe, in different ways to experience it. And I'm telling you for certain, they're not random chance, except that you believe they are for you to learn your lesson. So everything is 100% purposeful. Just like they say, well, the only reason we're the only humans and there's so much space, the only way that works is because, this random events that created consciousness is so rare that, of course, there wouldn't be anyone else there. And the only one experiencing it would be like, wow, why isn't the whole world dead? But it's really just such a rare thing, blah, 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 blah. And I'm not saying that's wrong or right. I'm just saying, like, that doesn't disprove what I'm saying, which is that we're here for a purpose. Because as an infinite soul, it doesn't matter the nature of the universe. You can come here to learn your lesson, and ultimately you're greater than that. There is no physical thing that can hold you in as a soul. So you've come here exactly as it is. Like, if you could just change one thing about your life and you think it would make you better, that thing will change because your soul is here to learn that thing. So there's no limitation to the soul, only a limitation to how much our carnal being inhabits that soul. Our whole shadow aspect of physicality inhabits that soul. And it's like if you had a device and you had to plug it in to the mother, to get the power. Like, that's the power source, because the power is information, and the information comes from the central sun, right? And that's where you're plugging into, like an umbilical cord, right in your center. You feel all the freshest, newest, greatest, most healing and central to all beings, where we're all unified. And then the stories that need to exist for people to wake up about the horrors that happen that are true, because I'm not saying they're not true or are true, I'm just saying, like, we all experience something in this world, so we all choose what our truth is. So it's not that we block our ears to the universe, but we take on as much as we can handle, because the people who watch all the news and take on the whole world, they think they're better than the person who just trying to take care of their one family or whatever, or just themselves, or just their dog. But you have your individual responsibility, and all these things need responses. Every individual thing that's being cared for in the world today, including self, needs a response. So you always give that. Just give that, and don't be here to tell others what they should be giving, because that's not giving. That's the energy of someone else doing your bidding, which is no kings, is not what we want. We don't want rulers because we want to rule ourselves. We want free choice because that is the only moral thing. And it's so obvious if you open your heart, right? That's why people are trying to be like, shut your heart down. And again, that is the lesson. So I'm not complaining that people are trying to shut it down, because if no one was and it was just easy, then there would be no heroes here. It would all be people who just wanted to walk in the park. And we're all heroes. That's the difference. So when we see occult magic that doesn't fit our fancy, we say, well, let's not fall prey to it. And a lot of the magic is mind tricks. So it's, if you're strong of mind, and that is not just something you're born with, that is something you developed through practice and choice and action, right? And repetition. So, and commitment. So let's commit ourselves collectively to open up to really what our soul's shining through from the center of us, that we all have this central sun within us. Instead of saying we're all connected to the same ball somewhere, let's think of the central sun as something that is inherently in the center of each one of us, where we have a mother particle, if you will, that even if it's not a particle, like it's a wave, and it permeates us, and it gives us a shared space where we are not alone. And to be alone is to be at peace within yourself, is to be at one with the universe, as is our right as this earthly being, right? Spiritual being in an earthly body. And we try to communicate with these new concepts, and if you get into semantics, it becomes impossible to get your message across, because you're trying to use words to express higher truths that the words weren't designed for. Even when you look at older languages, they were even more designed for higher truth, because they had more subtleties and more poetic license in the way they were writing. It still can do that today, but of course, I'm just speaking about what we see, which is generally the common or the prevalent thing at the time. There's exceptions, of course. So we're breathing, right? We're taking in what we want, we're letting out what we don't want. And we're realizing that the people who need to be stopped must be loved. All those people, 100% of them. The person in your personal life who's done you the most harm must be loved, even if he or she needs to be stopped, because that's possible. I can see that scenario. But also, they need love. Every being needs love. So hatred is a self-defeating, someone who wants to escape themselves. So they're hating others because it uses the same pathways in the brain. Like, if you hate another person, you have to escape your true self that actually knows you are that person. Like, we're one. But needing to stop that person is more like, you know how sometimes you get angry and you want to punch somebody, but you don't. Like, that's like, you know, I can see why people would be, you know, why you might put hands on somebody in certain situations. Like, I'm not saying non-violence is 100% always the answer, but it's not violence if it's defense, right? That's even written into the law. And then, of course, we have these differentiations within us where we're trying to find this maximum level of boundary. We're always testing the boundaries like a little kid. So if you can see yourself as a child, as the inner child is born through the balance of the masculine and the feminine, the inner child's born, and then you create a space where this balance creates a new learning, because you know how as a child they learn so quickly, but they also have an innocence, like where we think they're naive generally. But the child grows, right? So if you can conceptualize that, this inner child within us, even though the child repeatedly wants the thing that, you know, as a parent we've decided is not good for them, and we have to continually deny them of it. Let's say it's cherry candy. So you know you can't have that. Like, and then, I mean, that's not a good example, but you know what I'm saying, like something unhealthy for the baby that they're asking, even unsafe, right? So you as the parent, so as you grow your inner child, you also grow your inner parent, and your inner parents are the masculine and feminine that we spoke of. So you're excuse me, so you have like boundaries, and you also have like openness, you have like, you know, following patterns and being brand new, like all these different aspects coming into one thing instead of fighting each other like you'd think of predator prey. Sacred masculine feminine become inner child, and inner child grows and flourishes into like the perfect balance of masculine and feminine, which is exactly what the supposedly the race was before the split into Eve. So it was like a masculine feminine. When Adam met Lilith, they were both these complete beings, hermaphrodites, and because they weren't compatible, you know, then God was like, well, let's split Adam, rather than him being just one being unchallenged, right? Let's split him into his masculine and his feminine side, the feminine side being Eve. And of course, Eve being the side that connected to the source, to the physical, to create the physical life form that is the human being, right? Which, of course, as a hermaphrodite, you create through your own just like replication and making something from yourself. But you know, as an incomplete hermaphrodite, almost like a neutered dog, it's like you don't actually reproduce. Like, you're very useful for God or goddess or whatever the story goes, right? You're very useful, but when you become procreative, then you're always interfacing with nature, like, because nature is always changing, and regions, and that's why people from different parts of the world look different. And I think that gets into like this racism conundrum, or what is this all stemming from? And it seems like a long time ago nobody cared about that, and why is it such a big deal now? And I think it comes right back to the cat. It's not that hard to figure out, you know. It comes right back to this, like, those who want to organize the world with their will rather than interfacing with nature. They're trying to maybe from a trauma response, trying to like cushion themselves against the natural world, and they create this this system where different colored people, different regions of people have different values for their system of government. So the value of being strong and resilient to the sun in America, for example, during the invasion of the indigenous people and the colonization, there was a need for that type of categorization. That's really when things picked up, because at least in our culture, as we understand it, because it's recent history, because the race of black and quote unquote white, because I don't know, there's Asians and other people too, brown skinned people, but there was kind of like, yeah, exactly, like a color coding chart that the Aryans or the Syrians or the what would people call them? I don't know what they're called. I don't have a good name for them, because I'm not one to put labels on things, but I'm trying to understand the planet. And these individuals who consider themselves controllers, or some of us consider them controllers, or their mission is to be the devil for many people, but only because those people are struggling with these demons within them that they have no avenue to overcome them. So by being in this realm with these devils, then we have the ability to overcome what's within us that otherwise would go unexamined in this temporary space of relative comfort, I suppose, for a lot of us compared to historical human life. But not necessarily, because I'm not an expert on that either. I will say this. Every opportunity, every kind of wound you have as you work through within yourself, and every time you feel you haven't completely forgiven another and accepted them as being you in another time and space, and completely healing that bond, if you will, let's just give ourselves permission to do that. We don't have to do it now, but you have permission to heal and to forgive any being. It doesn't make you not be safe. Like, we're not talking about letting dangerous people run free, because that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about love and forgiveness. And part of that is keeping everybody safe. So let love be something you start to feel as a sensation too. As you open up to Kundalini awareness, use your breath and your focus, and let love be a sensation. Let yourself get to a point of stillness where you have a strong identity with that sensation, and then you can offer it whenever you feel there's a difficulty where you're having trouble forgiving a situation or a person. Then you offer that love to fill that situation, and then that healing, it's like the white blood cells of the healing emotional body can come in and penetrate whatever that spirochete is hiding and pull it out and examine it, because there's nothing wrong with burying things, and there's a time for that. But I'm not here to teach you about that, because I don't think that this is the time for that. And I'm sure there has been times for that, and maybe that's time for that for you to bury. But I encourage you to uncover, right? There's always the opportunity to bury things. It doesn't matter how much you uncover, you can still bury things in the future. But just right now, just to uncover something about yourself that's, that you find you can't accept about this world, because that's the best way to find what you need to work on. What is it about this world? Is it like one person taking another person's will away, right? That seems to be the issue to me. So now I need to find what ways in my life am I doing that, because it's more subtle. It's not just that I'm doing it willfully. It's more like I'm beyond trying to get forgiveness for my sins. That's not my path. My path is to find my highest genuine expression of true love and bring that manifestation into reality. So in a crystalline form, which is something that will stand the test of time and resonate in such a way that it will procreate this crystalline form just as it should. So that's what I strive toward, and that's why I learn breath, and I go in the sauna, and I move myself into beyond the physical limitations of my body and move into coordinated, energetic, like where you're bringing this soul through yoga. And yoga isn't just exercises. You're bringing it into the material where there's a blockage. Like yoga used to mean chanting not that long ago, and there was not really any stretching to speak of. So, it's the same principle when I say yoga, and it could mean, a silent meditation. Actually, it could mean a lot of things. Yoga means the union of this divine with what we're interfacing with in the material realm. And then beyond that, like your emotions and your, hunger, let's say, you're like hungry for food, or your addictions like coffee or something, like all these different aspects of self or ego being or habit that we can not only examine, which is wonderful, but also put concerted effort to having an effect toward to making it more ideal in a cohesive way. That's what yoga is, because what's the point? Like, there's a point to like pumping irons to get your muscles big, right? There's a point to like running fast. It's like to get a gold medal, right? But what's the point to yoga? There's no yoga award except who can be the best personality teaching yoga and make it funny and fun and interesting, or they seem wise, and they're good at being seen. Like, that's the only type of thing you can really, and that's kind of the opposite of what yoga is. So it's very paradoxical in that way, where it's like you would never strive as a yogi in truth to be materially I don't know what the word is, like to have that non-spiritual life. But I digress. As far as we can come together in this and support each other, and when we are uncomfortable supporting another person, then we examine, right? We don't have to act against our comfort, because that can be dangerous, but we just want to always examine ourselves by opening ourselves up to this ever-breathing oneness, where just nature, just turn your phone off, go outside, nature, like that's all it is. And quietude, maybe, like not just like like you have family and you have friends, but sometimes it's good to be with self and to have no noises other than nature. Okay? And that's where you're going to heal all these atrocities, so to speak, that we perceive. Because the man in the woods who I don't know if there's anyone left, but let's just say hypothetically, who society has not discovered yet. Like in the past, certainly when I was a kid, there were men who had never seen a modern society, so to speak. Those people are not being affected by any of the stuff that we're watching on the news or anything like that. So their lives are going on as they have for hundreds of thousands of years, because nature's still still providing, and still, because nature's a force that created us. So to destroy nature is only to destroy self. Nature cannot be destroyed except that we destroy ourselves, because we are the nature. I am that nature, right? And that's an important lesson for all of us. So let's end on that. Blessings, cohesion, love, and let us form a realm that we truly want to live in, for all which is one.